Okay, so extreme horror, yeah, it's not for everybody, but it does hold a special place in my heart. I am a very big fan of extreme horror. I have been for a very long time. And so I decided that I wanted to make a tier list with some of my favorite extreme horror movies and some of my not so favorite extreme horror movies. We don't have a lot of movies on this list because to go over every single extreme or exploitation or experimental horror film would be a very, very long video. So I took some of the ones that I have seen, which has been the majority of them, and then added in a couple more that were suggested to me on Reddit. So thank you to everybody who recommended me movies on that thread. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe. That helps the channel grow. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed recently and watched the videos. You can also follow us on Twitter and Reddit as well. And then head over to our Etsy. Speaking of extreme horror, we do have some new extreme horror shirts up on the Etsy for sale, including some of the movies we're going to be talking about today. As you can see here, we do have our tiers set up. There is 5 of them. We have top tier extreme, which is going to be personally my favorite extreme horror exploitation films that I think combine everything into one circle, which is storytelling, story building, good cinematography, and also extreme graphic violence and gratuitous gore, and just it puts everything together and just overall is a great extreme horror film. Now, the next one down is great overall movie. Now, these will be the movies that might not stick out the most as far as the gratuitous violence and gore. Now, there are some of them that will be in this category, I believe, that does have some very, very graphic scenes, but are overall just really, really good movies that could possibly be in the Criterion Collection or highly regarded, even the graphic nature involved with those films. Next is solid gore. So those are going to be the movies that aren't necessarily the highest quality films, but they are going to have a lot of gore and they're going to be a lot of fun and they're going to just draw you in with the amount of gore and nastiness, and are just a fun time if you feel like getting underneath somebody's skin. Next one down is cheesy but good. Now, what I mean by that, now these are going to be the movies that, again, could have a lot of gore and fun gore, but it's going to be to the point where they're going to be cheesy, almost B-movie-esque, and that's going to be ones that, yeah, they're bad, and you're going to admit they're bad. The acting's bad, the prosthetic makeup's bad, the effects are bad, the storytelling's bad, it's all bad, but it's so bad that it's funny, kind of, and good. And last but not least is don't waste your time. Now, don't waste your time is going to be just movies that I flat out think that you shouldn't watch. Whether they're not good movies, whether I believe that they're just too extreme for the general public to watch in general, or if they just don't make any sense whatsoever and the reason why they were made was just smut. That's it. Like, pretty much that's it. And before I get into these, I'm not suggesting anybody watch these movies. I am used to watching movies like this, so they do not bother me, but the general public isn't. And some of you might be very offended or grossed out or sickened by the contents of these films. They are very, very graphic, and they are intended for 18 plus only. So if you're watching this, do not seek out to watch these movies. Some of these movies you have to seek online to find. You're not going to be able to just look up and be on Netflix or YouTube or whatever. They are going to be in dark parts of the internet. So do not search these unless you are willing to accept the fact that these are very, very graphic, intense films with very serious subject matter in some cases and very, very dark and disturbing themes. Okay, let's get started. First one up is Vomit Gore Trilogy. Now, I have seen the Vomit Gore Trilogy before. I have watched it a couple times through, and yeah, they're weird. So the first movie of the Vomit Gore Trilogy is Slaughtered Vomit Dolls, and just by the name of it, you can kind of guess where we're getting at with that. Now, these movies are made by Lucifer Valentine or Lucy Valentine, and they are just pretty much exploitation films and borderline pornography films. They're kink films for sure. There's a lot of sex, there's a lot of blood, and obviously by the name, there's a lot of puke. So obviously they're trying to push this towards a certain group of people that would be into those types of things. But sitting there watching it, it doesn't really give you a vibe of having an actual movie, rather than it just being an exploitation film for an exploitation film's sake. If you want to watch these movies, be my guest, but just a warning, if you're not into puke, then don't watch these, because that's literally the entire movies, and they're very uncomfortable. I am going to put this into... goodness, I don't want to put it in waste your time, because I do feel like there's some people who would find it enjoyable, and I did not find it enjoyable, but I don't think that it's good whatsoever. I think it's literally just a fetish movie, and it's meant to be a fetish movie. Now, there are some subject matters having to do with alcoholism, with depression, with drug use, stuff like that. The main character, she does sort of go through these highs and lows. I think there's a lot of commentary on addiction and depression, so I don't think it's an absolutely meaningless movie, but I think that the trilogy in itself is just so gross with the amount of vomit. And when I talk about that, there's a guy who shows up at the end of every single movie, and it's already gross through the entire movies, but once he comes in, he's just doing the raunchiest stuff possible, puking all over the place, puking inside of wounds of people that are obviously fake people, but it's still happening. I'm gonna say that this is cheesy but good. I would say it's cheesy but good, because at some point you're watching it and you're like, goodness gracious, like this isn't fun, but I can't not watch, because it's like gross. Next up is Face of Death, and this is a movie that I saw when I was very young. I was convinced for a very long time that a lot of the stuff that happened in this movie was real. I believed for most of my childhood after watching it that every single scene with a death in this movie was a real death. Now that I'm older, I do realize that there are deaths in there that are fake. I would say the majority of them are fake, but there are a few real deaths on there, and there are some animal deaths on there. So there's going to be a trend of some things in this tier list of really messed up stuff that has to do with every single one of these movies, and animals included. So this is that first one on the list where animals are kind of included, and so I would say Faces of Death would be in solid gore. And I want to rate it higher. I want to put it at top tier extreme, because it is such a highly regarded film in the extreme horror community, and it is one of my favorite horror movies, extreme horror movies. But I can't just put it up there because I love it so much. I have to look at it unbiasedly and realistically. And I think it has really good gore. I think it comes off as a mockumentary that seems very, very real. But I would not put it as a great overall movie or top tier. I think it has really good gore. I think it serves a purpose. That purpose, I'm not 100% sure. I think education, that's what it tries to come off of. But overall, I think it deserves that solid gore. I think that's a good, solid place to put Faces of Death. Next was Inside. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut to the chase. I'm not going to talk about this movie very much. I found it extremely cheesy. I found it baiting. It didn't seem as extreme as what I thought it was going to be. So, Inside, you're automatically going and don't waste your time. Don't waste your time watching the movie. Personally, I didn't like it whatsoever. If you want to look it up or watch a trailer of it and you think you might like it, go ahead, but it just didn't feel that extreme to me, and it didn't feel like that great of a movie to me. Next up is Begotten. Now, I have talked about Begotten on this channel before. I said that Skinamarink is one movie that really reminded me of Begotten, and Begotten is an experimental horror film from the late 90s, and shot in high contrast black and white, with just ominous noises separated into 3 parts. It is kind of hard to follow along the premise a little bit, just because of the style that it is, but I absolutely love the style, and I think that it is a top tier extreme. And the reason why I think that is because that this is a movie that is an art piece. It is not just a movie. It does have some social commentary to it if you can figure out what the meaning behind each part is. And I really believe that it's so different and it's so unique that it deserves to be in top tier extreme. I think that everybody, including people who don't like extreme horror, I think need to watch Begotten and have a better grasp of what the artistic process looks like, because unfortunately in the horror community there is a lot of gatekeeping that happens, and there is a lot of people who come down and trash people who like these types of movies. You know, I've gotten a lot of criticism for liking the movies that I like, and it's not that I only watch extreme horror. I do like elevated horror. I do like certain slashers and stuff from the 80s. I enjoy those fun times, but I don't like typical run-of-the-mill modern day horror movies. And that's just me personally, and I don't hate on anybody for liking, you know, movies like this and like this, and especially like this, who try to come off as extreme horror and only end up coming off as try hard and over the top and cheesy. But that's okay. If you like those movies, that's completely fine. I am not going to gatekeep you in the horror community because horror is subjective. What I don't want people to do is gatekeep people like me who like extreme horror and like more serious graphic subject matter. Speaking of which, Antichrist is next, and Antichrist is a movie that I just got told I was disgusting for liking the other day on Reddit. I got told I was disgusting for liking a Lars von Trier movie. A movie that is in the Criterion Collection, is highly regarded within film for being an amazing film, just because, you know, there's some graphic scenes, which, I mean, there are graphic scenes. You know, the one with the thing and the thing and the thing. Yeah, we're not going to go into it. So Antichrist, if you don't know anything about this movie, it's a Lars von Trier movie, the director of the House of Jack built Nymphomaniac series, Melancholia, and plenty of other movies. His shtick is to make as messed up as movies as possible, starring really famous actors, and make them as beautiful as possible. Now, I consider Antichrist an art house film, along with all other Lars von Trier movies, so it is extreme horror, but it is also an art house film, and like I said, it is in the Criterion Collection, so it's a very highly regarded film. But Willem Dafoe is so good in this movie, but has to go through the craziest stuff, and it's beyond my belief that he even signed on to do this movie because of how insane some of the stuff in the film is. But I'm so happy he did it because it kind of elevates the movie and makes it feel like this big movie with Willem Dafoe in it. So obviously you're going to understand where I'm going to put this, and that is going in top tier extreme. There is some social commentary about women and their bodies, their rights to motherhood, depression, anxiety, postpartum. There is a lot of social commentary, and that's what Lars von Trier does. He does put a lot of commentary on serious subject in his movies. All right, August Underground, here we go. So August Underground is a trilogy of, I guess, independent, extreme exploitation, fake snuff films. The whole first one really doesn't have a premise whatsoever. It's just kind of people tied up in basements and tortured. And there's vomit. Remember when I said the thing about the animals? There's a constant thing going on in all of these movies where there's vomit. So just forewarned. Yeah, it's really not good. The ending is literally just a porno, essentially. That's that. Now, the second one, August Underground Mortem. That's when they really step it up, and it definitely gets more intense than the first one. Yeah, the second one pretty much has everything. It has necrophilia, it has vomit, it has pee, it has literally everything, so yeah, gross. And the third and last one's called August Underground Penance. Now this one is a step below the second one. I think they took the first one, they built off of it and made it more extreme for the second one, and the third one is just a huge disappointment. The girl from the second movie returns. There is more animal deaths. Again, like I said, repeating thing with these movies is real animal deaths. There's a scene with a rat and an alligator, and then later on with a deer and a lion. Also, simulated kid killing. Yeah, no, I'm cool with that. Also, really messed up ending, the worst ending of the whole entire 3 that made no sense, that literally didn't finish off the series good whatsoever. I will put August Underground at solid gore. And the reason why is, out of all the messed up stuff, all of the gross stuff, it does have some really good gory scenes and some really convincing scenes as far as gore goes. There were some scenes in the 3 movies where I was like, this looks real, but obviously it's not. But it looks real. So that's the reason why I think it goes in solid gore. I don't think it's like that great. I do think it is just exploitation and extreme just for shock value. But it does have some good makeup effects and good prosthetic makeup effects. And so I'll give it that. All right, Guinea Pig. Guinea Pig is a Japanese movie. I wouldn't say it's great or not great. I feel like it did contribute to the extreme horror because of it is an older movie, so it did contribute a little bit to that. And I got to give it respect. I would say it is at solid. Actually, no, I'm going to put it cheesy but good. Cheesy but good, because it was so blatantly obvious at times that this was fake, and they were trying so hard to make it real. And I just keep going back to the spinning her in a chair and kicking the ground, pretending to kick her. So that's really cheesy, but I liked it. I thought it was fun. It was a short watch. There are definitely more guinea pigs you can watch. I'm pretty sure there's an American one too. Yeah, it's not a bad watch if you want to watch it. It's definitely make you a little bit squeamish, but it's not anything crazy. Oh man, Man Behind the Sun. What can I say? I'm going to go ahead and rate this and tell you why, because there's a lot to go over with it. I'm going to put it at great overall movie. Now, some may disagree with me on that, and I completely understand. There are definitely some things in it that don't make it great, including acting, which I did watch the English dub version, and so it might have just been them. But there are some cheesy scenes. There are some distasteful scenes. There are definitely some stuff in it that, I mean, again, you probably shouldn't be watching. But at the same time, these are real events that happened, and it's based off of complete real events that I will go over real quickly the description of the movie before I get into what I liked and what I didn't like about it. But again, I think it's worthy of being put into the great movies overall, not in a whole entire thing as far as every single movie being considered great. I think just in this category alone, it can be considered great overall because it's not necessarily the craziest gore or the craziest extreme, but the fact that it's based off of real events is what really makes you sit back and realize, like, oh crap, this stuff actually happened, and this movie is just trying to show you the horrendous things that did happen. So IMDb has it listed as Japanese troops round up Chinese and Russian prisoners of war and take them to Unit 731, where they are horribly tortured and experimented on to test new biological weapons. Unit 731, according to Wikipedia, was responsible for some of the most notorious crimes committed by the Japanese armed forces. So this movie is shedding light on what Japan did in this Unit 731 to these Chinese, Korean, and Russian hostages that they had, or prisoners that they had during that time period. There's definitely some comedic parts in it, especially early. There's some just kind of laughable parts, but again, that could be because of the English dub. But at the same time, yeah, they were kind of funny. At one point, a dude drinks pee. Again, we're still getting into pee stuff. Extreme horrors, am I right? And again, a baby is killed, so killing kids. Extreme horror. It's just what happened. Oh, would you look at that? More vomit. There's some ice freezing torture. Yeah, her arm. If you've seen the movie, yeah, her arms. You know what I'm talking about. Oh my god. Really weird, creepy sexual scene where a dude's pulling armpit hairs and laughing really hard. But then, just like Full Metal Jacket, the kind of cheesy funniness kind of gets really, really serious towards the end of the movie, and we start to dabble in some really serious gore. Like the bomb scene. Yeah, that was disturbing. The chamber scene. That was very disturbing. That chamber scene was probably one of the grossest kills I've ever seen in my entire life. At one point, there is blood all over the Japanese flag, which I believe is just symbolism for the blood on the hands of this Unit 731 regime that did all of these terrible experiments. I liked it. It's real events, like I said. I think it's worth a watch just to understand what exactly happened. Now, is it over the top? Is it funny at parts? Is it gratuitous violence? Yes. But it's not a bad movie whatsoever. Next is Grotesque, and I am going to go ahead and put that at cheesy, but good. This is a movie that got me. It got me. I hated it. The whole movie, I hated it until the very end. There is definitely torture porn vibes. And when I talk about torture porn, I am talking about like literally porn. Like Vomit Gore series was literally torture porn. It was literally that. So was August Underground for the most part. This started off that way for the most part too. Couple gets kidnapped. They put them across from each other, and this doctor just does really messed up stuff to them to try to get them to come together or something. I don't know, dude. It was confusing. And guess what? There's vomit. Again, already, vomit. There is a very, very, very graphic essay scene that I am not going to go into detail, so forewarning if you watch this movie, there is a very graphic one. Now, there's a bunch of stuff, but it pretty much turns into Hostel at some point. Where they're just being tortured for no reason. Really gross stuff. Genital mutilation, which another one of those things that comes up a lot in extreme horror. Antichrist, August Underground. They always have genital mutilation for some reason. Doctor tries to like trick him into thinking that he's going to heal him up and let him go because he just wanted to see how far they would go. Joke's on them. They shouldn't have trusted him. He only just decided to torture them again. Then you find out at the end, the whole entire thing is just a yo mama joke, essentially, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. All right, next is Audition. Audition, that's going in top tier extreme. Audition is a great movie. If you have not seen Audition, I am not going to spoil anything. I don't want to spoil anything for Audition because it's such a good movie. But I'll give you a premise. A girl is auditioning for a film. She gets invited back by the producer or the director, whichever, to work her way into a spot in the film. And, well, push come to shove, she didn't like creepy old men very much. So that's the premise of the movie. It is really freaking good, and go watch it. It is one of the most well-known extreme horror movies. So go watch it because I don't want to talk about it and give anything away. That way you guys can just bask in the glory of Audition. A Serbian Film. Now, here's a big one. And this is the big one why people don't like me. And that's because I defend this film. Yes, I have talked this entire video about gratuitous violence, about violence against children, about just nasty sexual themes that probably should not be in films. And arguably, A Serbian Film has some of the worst ones out of the group of this whole entire movie. But where it's saving grace to me is the very beautiful cinematography. The storyline in general is not bad at all. Yes, there are some parts where it is bad acting. But you know what? I can look past that at a certain point when I think the story is good enough to get into. Now, the director did say that this was a political statement towards the Serbian government, in which I agree with, but there are some people who don't believe that, thinking he was just saving face and trying to make the most grotesque film ever. And while I can sit here and say that this movie is definitely grotesque and there is some subject matter in it that has never been in any other movie and is absolutely horrendous, it's not the worst movie on this list, and it's definitely not the most messed up extreme horror movie ever made. I've watched some worse movies than A Serbian Film. Obviously, if you don't know the movie, you're confused on what I'm talking about. There is a scene with a baby. There is a scene with a little boy who is the son of the main character. There is a scene with a penis entering a skull. There is a lot. The machete scene is one that comes to mind, with a decapitation. Yes, it's gross. Yes, it's gratuitous. Yes, it is hypersexual. But at the end of the day, I can look past those things if a movie has a meaning, and I think this movie has a meaning. So I am going to put this at solid gore. I don't think it's deserving of a great overall movie, because I don't believe that it is. But I'm not going to put it at top tier extreme because of it being so controversial. I think that people would really not like this movie for the most part, and I think there's a very few of us that actually do enjoy it. Okay, next up is Traces of Death, and I'm literally going to put Don't Waste Your Time. It's pretty much just Faces of Death, and they're essentially the same type of movie. So don't waste your time. I mean, unless you really, really enjoy Faces of Death and that series and you want to dig a little bit deeper, a little bit more serious, possibly some more real deaths or some more graphic stuff than what Faces of Death, then go to Traces of Death. Okay, Cannibal Holocaust is next, and I personally love Cannibal Holocaust. I have a Cannibal Holocaust flag up right there. I have a Cannibal Holocaust poster right there. I believe there is a Cannibal Holocaust poster right there. That's 3 Cannibal Holocaust things just in this room alone. Ruggero Deodato absolutely killed it on this film. I believe this is top tier extreme. And why I believe that is... Actually, no, I take that back. As much as I love this movie, I'm going to put it at great overall movie. Yes, there are animal deaths in it. Again, that's a thing that's happening in these extreme horror movies. There are animal deaths, and yeah, if you can look past that, I'm not taking up for it whatsoever, but it was a different time period. According to Deodato, the animal parts did get eaten by the tribes members and the crew members of the movie. So it wasn't wasted. It was just hunting for the scene, and then they actually hunted, apparently, and used that animal meat. So if you can look past that, what you can see is a film that is not well done, but good enough done to keep you occupied during the movie. It's widely considered the first found footage movie ever made, which I agree with. And if you don't know anything about it, it's about a group of people who go into the jungle to make a documentary on an isolated village that's possibly cannibalistic. They go missing, so another group goes to find their cameras and their bodies, and when they find their cameras, they ended up finding out that this whole entire time, the people going into the jungle were massive pieces of shit, or tormented these jungle people for no reason whatsoever other than the fact that they're just shitty people. So with Deodato's social commentary in this movie, I absolutely love it. There's like a scene where it's just going over all the crappy things that humans do, and it's just like, why do we think that they're savages for living by themselves and going by these customs of cannibalism when we literally are destroying the earth and killing each other and starting wars, and we are the problem. It's not just them. All right, next up is Martyrs, and Martyrs is automatically going up to top tier extreme. Martyrs is another one that, like Audition, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to break anything down, or I'm not going to give anything away. If you've not seen Martyrs, not the American one, watch the original one from 2008. Do not watch the American remake. The American remake sucks. Go now, watch the original Martyrs that was made in 2008. It is phenomenal. It has gore. It has scary scenes. It has jump scares. It has religious tones. It has subliminal messages. It has everything that you want for extreme horror. And yeah, it is not that extreme, but in the sense of making you question certain things, and there's definitely some gory stuff in there and some serious subject matter that I think it definitely needs to be considered within the horror realm. And it's a movie that you absolutely have to see. It's a must watch if you're a horror movie fan. So that's all I'm saying about Martyrs. It belongs up there without a doubt. And if you agree with that, awesome. If you don't, I mean, I guess I can kind of understand, but if you have not seen the movie, go watch it, please. Next up is Salò, or 120 Days of Sodom. This one's tough for me. I want to put it in great overall movie, and I want to put it in solid gore. I also want to put it in cheesy and good, and I also want to put it in don't waste your time. It is a lot. It is a lot. A lot of gross stuff, a lot of torture, a lot of just, yeah, everything. This movie, I almost turned off the first time I watched it because I didn't feel like I should have been watching it. I felt like it was illegal to watch. But I finally got through it. I think it's going to go in, because it's not really that gory. And it's not cheesy. I'm going to put it in great overall movie, only in the spectrum of extreme horror. It is a art house film. It is an old film, but it does have some social commentary to it as far as social political standings, as far as classism and elitism. It is very, very graphic. There's a lot of nudity. There's a lot of sexual undertones. There's a lot of torture. At some point, they're made to eat poop. Yes, I said that correctly, eat poop. But it is worth a watch, and I think it's a really good film overall. If you take out the gross stuff, I think that it serves a purpose in its realm, which is extreme horror. And that is, like I said, a little bit of a social commentary on elitism and classism. So I think it's a very good film. I've known people that didn't like it or got disgusted by it or could not finish it. I completely understand that if you feel that way. And I think it's great. So that's just me personally. All right, so we have no more down here, but I thought of one after I added all of these, and I'm too stupid to figure out how to add another one to it. So as you can see here, we are pretty even down the board, but don't waste your time. Looks a little bit empty. So I think I need to add one to it. And that's the Poughkeepsie tapes. My God, does that movie suck. Don't waste your time watching it. Whoever has said that this was an extreme horror movie can jump off a bridge. I'm just kidding. Don't jump off a bridge. Your opinion on the movie is valid. But it is not extreme horror. Holy crap. It is PG-13 softcore trying to act like extreme horror. This is a movie who MGM, who produced it, probably sat down at a table with other producers and said, hey, you know what the kids like? August Underground. You know, that extreme horror movie that makes you think that they're actually killing and essaying people? Yeah, how about we do our version of that and put out this massive piece of crap? Poughkeepsie Tapes is not a extreme horror whatsoever. They barely show any gore. There's no real graphic scenes. The only stuff that's really disturbing is the kid stuff. And again, why do we have to pull kids into these movies? Why? Why do we have scenes with kids? Like, just don't do it. Just don't. There's no point. I don't care any of these movies. Don't put kids in them. Second, the acting is so bad. The FBI agent in that movie is laughable bad. She is such a bad actor. Also, they randomly just kill a cop for no reason because they think he's a murderer, and then it ends up not being him. Like, what are you talking about? They bring up 9/11 randomly, like, oh, we absolutely messed up by killing the innocent guy that we thought was the serial killer, but 9/11 happened, so nobody cared. Don't waste your time. So Poughkeepsie Tapes, you are going right there on the bottom, making it pretty much even outside of Top Tier. Top Tier had the best ones, but overall, pretty even down the board for our Top Tier list. Let me know what you think, if you agree with this tier list. Again, forewarning, do not search for these movies to watch unless you really, really want to and really are used to gore and violence and sexual themes. That does it. We'll be back on Sunday with a stream, actually. We are going to try to do a live stream for you guys on YouTube, so be on the lookout for that on Sunday. If not, our next full video will be posted next Wednesday. And thank you for joining us here in Basement Horrors. We will be back soon with another video.